I'm so through with you. Black Power, Comrade Robert. Thank you so much. I was prepared this morning, but thank you anyway, Comrade. Now let me just. Oh, okay, it's 10. Okay. Black Power, y'all. Come on in the room. You already know what time it is. Black Power GG. As y'all can hear, I got my New Orleans bounce going on in the background or whatever. You know. We have lit political education around here, okay? Especially when you mess with Chief Dia. You know it gotta be lit. It gotta be litty. We're gonna give it a few moments. Please share. And once you've shared, put in the comments #share so I can know that you shared it. And we're gonna get this thing started, alright? Happy Sunday to everyone that's on so far. What do they call it? #Sunday Fun Day. Well, we about to have #Sunday Political Education Fun Day. I know that's a lot of words, but it's okay. Would y'all like and share? Please share. Black Power Summit. Well, it's 11:02. Alright, I ain't gonna, cause I got my viewers now, you know I ain't gonna prolong it. I'm gonna give it to 11:03. 11:03 and then we're gonna get started. Well, that's the next minute, cause it's 11:02 now, so at 11:03 we gotta get started. Oh man. Did everyone have a good weekend? Y'all talk to me. How was your weekend this weekend? What did y'all do? I told you over and over again. Alright, we got 9 people watching now. I need some #shares in the comments. Please share in your groups. Share on your personal timeline. Share whatever you can. Let's get this political education out to everybody. It's the Revolutionary Book Club, y'all. And it's 11:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So good morning and Black Power to my beautiful African people, my colonized people who have joined me today for the Revolutionary Book Club with your boy Chief Dia, presented by Black Hammer, a grassroots revolutionary organization that is the littest grassroots revolutionary organization in existence right now. As you can see, everything that we got going on, we where it's at. Thank you, comrades Robert and Gigi, for sharing. Y'all, please, like and share. Also want to let you guys know, Cameron said, what you said, Comrade Cameron? I attempted to get into some hot boy shit, but nah. Maybe next weekend, Comrade. Thank you so much for sharing, Neil. But anyway, just want to let you guys know, thank you, Corey, that the Revolutionary Book Club serves as a fundraiser for Black Hammer as an organization. So you can donate today by going to CashApp. I don't think you have to include the $, but it's BHBookclub. You can donate through CashApp, and you can also donate by going to GoFundMe.com/Black Hammer Organization. So whatever you can donate, whether it's $5, $2, $3, whatever, we'll take it. Thank you so much for sharing, Comrade Cameron. So, also want to let you guys know, give you a reminder that Sunday for Black Hammer is lit. Because in the morning, you starting off with the Revolutionary Book Club with me. Then at 6 o'clock in the evening, you have my comrade Robert with his new show, Propaganda. So you need to make sure that you tune into that at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Propaganda is a show that's based on, Comrade Robert. He's going to be summing up, how white colonialism, white imperialism uses media as a tool to infiltrate the minds of the masses. All of these different hidden messages and the cartoons that you watch, the different advertisements, the movies. He goes really into depth about how the U.S. government, the FBI, is embedded in everything, that we consume. And, even with us reading the autobiography of Assata, and, how she goes into detail about how the state had her plastered in so many different magazines and so many different news outlets, just basically slandering, Comrade Assata, saying that she did all of this stuff, basically to turn her into a villain, in regards to other colonized and other African people. And we understand that, again, the media is a tool of imperialism. So y'all tune in to Propaganda with Comrade Robert. That's going down at 6 o'clock. Sundays is lit for Black Hammer, okay? So that's two chances for you to get political education on a Sunday, okay? And also, Comrade Robert, if you can, I would even say put in the comments what you're going to be talking about this afternoon so people can know. Just want to let you guys know those donation links are pinned right here in the comments. So if you want to donate through CashApp or GoFundMe, go ahead and click on those links and let's make it happen. I just want to, thank everybody who has been with me thus far. This is the third episode of the Revolutionary Book Club with your boy Dia. And today we're going to be reviewing chapters 7 through 9. We have 12 chapters left, so y'all, we doing the thing. So again, it's really not too late. If you still want to join in on the discussion, please hit up Comrade Robert or Comrade Gigi, and they can shoot you over the free PDF so you can get up to, catch up to where we're at right now. And also, don't forget, you changed the day, Comrade? Are you saying that it's Wednesday now? Okay, my bad, y'all. It's not Sunday anymore. Well, was it ever Sunday? I'm sorry. I don't know where I got Sunday from, but it's Wednesday. Comrade Robert is saying Wednesday at 6. So, dang, you only get me on Sunday, but it's okay. And this Wednesday, he's going to be talking about Stranger Things. Oh, my gosh. Comrade Robert, you got to go in on that because, listen, how they got the Russians in this storyline it's ridiculous. But anyway, y'all, so don't forget, we're still doing the giveaway, the Assata autobiography giveaway. Last week, I asked the question, and you got two more questions to answer, and I'm going to give the next question later on in today's show, so y'all stick around for that, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. And as I said, we're reviewing chapters 7 through 9, so with chapter 7, basically Comrade Assata, she lets us know that her and Brother Cam were acquitted of the supposed New York bank robberies, that they were on trial for. And they were acquitted. That was in January 28th, 1973. And so I'm going to stop right there just so, we can stay conscious of where we're at in this timeline, because we got to understand that right now they have Assata in prison. She's locked up right now for what happened on the New Jersey Turnpike. But, as we've been reading up until this point, they've been prosecuting her for all these different trumped up charges, that the FBI, the CIA, the government has put against her while she's, supposed to be waiting to go to trial for what happened on the New Jersey Turnpike. So they got acquitted January 2nd, that was January 28th, 1973. So where that falls in the timeline, you have January 2nd, 1973. She was at the New York State Supreme Court, County of Kings, And the day of arraignment was May 29th, 1974. No trial, dismissed. So all of these different, like I said, all of these different, trials and, charges and all of these different lies that the state has piled up against Comrade Assata, she's still battling this while waiting to be, put on trial for what happened at the New Jersey Turnpike. So we also find out in chapter 7 that they're still putting the jury together, for the trial. But how they're doing it now is that they're bringing in different jurors through the voting rolls, meaning that they're taking assessment of, people who voted, and even in today's society, how the jury is chosen, selected is, to see if you're a voter, if you've been voting and things of that nature. So she discusses that as well. And, just her worry, because we understand that, of course, it's in the interest of the state to put all of these different white nationalist juries on this, on the stand to basically convict, Comrade Assata of this crime that she did not commit. So she speaks about that. And then she also tells us that her Aunt Evelyn is back on the case. She didn't go with the feminist attorney that she had researched in the last chapter, when her and Evelyn had first initially fell out. So now she has brought Auntie Evelyn. Auntie Ev is back on the case, and everything is, how it is. So let's see. Just in terms to give you an idea of, just how white nationalists, the jury was shaping up to be, you have Comrade Assata, who speaks about this one juror who brought this book that was titled Target Blue, which was written by Robert Daly, who was before that time, he was the publicist for the New York Police Department. So you have Robert Daly, who's basically written this book, Target Blue, which this book contained like 2 chapters on the Black Liberation Army. And in this book, he speaks about how Assata is basically the mother hen, how she has killed multiple police, and all of these different, just made up bullshit, to basically villainize Comrade Assata. And then it's just one jury who actually brought the book to the proceedings, because when they're choosing a jury, they have to question you on different subjects and things of that nature. So he actually brought the book to the courthouse and was sharing it, amongst all of the other jurors. And that's not even to say that the other jurors wasn't already reading the damn book before he brought it to the motherfucking goddamn courthouse. So, that's just an idea of what the state was trying to do when composing, putting together this jury. Black Power, Comrade Naya. So she speaks about that. And it's also revealed in chapter 7 that Comrade Assata is indeed pregnant. So, thank you, Comrade Naya. In the previous chapters, we do know that it was discussed, with her and Comrade Cam, that they had, their relationship had entered, a new avenue, or, a new lane or whatever, meaning that they had basically found an interest in each other, that they were becoming romantically involved. And, we also discussed how Comrade Assata was torn about, conceiving a child while being locked up. Well, as she reveals in chapter 7, it happened. So she basically speaks about, the different changes that her body was going through at this point in time, about how, she was eating all the time, she was sleeping all the time, she couldn't really get through her daily exercises that she was doing, on a daily basis. And she had already known for herself, that basically she was pregnant. And she had made up in her mind at that point that, she wasn't going to reveal. Thank you so much for coming through, Comrade Neil. Make sure you join us back here please make sure you join us back here on next Sunday. But basically, she didn't want to just come straight out and reveal to the prison doctor that, hey, I'm pregnant. So what she would do is go see the doctor and basically hint at him, I'm having morning sickness, I'm sleeping all day, and, just laying out all the different, telltale signs of someone who might be pregnant. And so this entire time, the doctor is just telling her, you know what, don't worry about it. You're just sick. You have something going on with your intestines and all this other type of stuff like that. When this doctor already has tested Assata for being pregnant 3 times, in this entire time, while Comrade Assata is trying to tell him, what is going on, he's just saying, no, you just not feeling good, and all of this other different type of bullshit, to lead her on a different path. So she speaks about that, and she also speaks about, revealing it to her mother and her sister, and her mother and her sister don't believe her at first. And they don't believe her to the point that after they have a visit with her and Assata reveals that, she's telling them that she's pregnant, they're just laughing at her, not believing her, and to the point where the mother returns home and she actually calls Evelyn, the aunt, the attorney that's defending Assata, and, expresses some concern, thinking that Assata may have lost her mind, while being in jail when, she's actually pregnant. And I just want to read this quick little portion real quick where she speaks about, how the people are responding to the fact that she's pregnant. So she says, well, they better not try to come around me asking no questions, I told them. I'll tell them that this baby was sent by the black creator to liberate black people. I'll tell them that this baby is our new black messiah, conceived in a holy way, come to lead our people to freedom and justice and to create a new black nation, black power. I just thought that was, really funny. And, what was also just so, powerful to me about this whole situation is the fact that, Comrade Assata and Comrade Cam could conceive a child, during this whole situation that him and Comrade Assata was going through. And just like the level of, I don't give a fuck, that was displayed by both of these comrades, because you gotta think, they were in a courtroom, in a courthouse, making love in the name of the revolution, all while these different proceedings was going on. Like, fuck the judge, fuck this court, we're gonna have this revolutionary child, and we just not gonna give a fuck. And I just think that was just so powerful to me. Just like, right, Comrade Robert, I don't give a fuck levels off the chart. That was just so really like a real major fuck you to everything that America absolutely stood for. And just the bravery that was displayed by these two comrades to go ahead and say, we understand that we're in the clutches of the state right now, that anything could possibly happen to us right now, but we're going to have this baby. We're going to have our hope for the future. And that was just so absolutely so beautiful to me. Black Power, Comrade Robert. So now it's time for the hashtag read that back part for chapter 7. And for me, that comes on page 124 when, Comrade Assata is, really internalizing at this point that she's pregnant, and just thinking of all the different aspects of, the child, what that child will go through, and just the excitement and the fears and the hopes that she's had for her child. And so I'm going to read that portion. And it says, let's see. Sometimes I felt so helplessly protective, wondering when my baby will be called nigger for the first time. Wondering when the full horror and degradation of being black in America would descend on my baby. How many wolves hid behind the bushes to eat my child? But there were so many happy things that I thought about too. I wonder when would be the first time my child would sit down and seriously appreciate the glory of a sunset and marvel at the wonders of nature. Or when he or she would smack lips and lick fingers over a sweet potato pie. I love sweet potato pie, y'all. Or kiss strawberries and drink lemonade. it has always, intrigued me how the world can be so beautiful and ugly at the same time. I wanted with all my being for my baby to experience the many types and sides of love and friendship, and to know and understand the selflessness and generosity, struggle and sacrifice, honesty, courage, and so many of the sentiments that have given me strength and have made my life worth living. Ooh, excuse me, y'all. In these days, I was in such a state of sensitivity and thought I barely noticed what was going on around me. And hashtag read that back. Please put your hashtag read that back parts in the comments so we can, open it up for discussion. But I just really, that part was really powerful for me as well, just to think, of what all African and colonized mothers must think about, when conceiving a child, going through pregnancy. Like, what can we offer our children, as colonized individuals, in this world, and just all of the different, precautions that we have to think about when raising a child as a colonized African. I'm pretty sure many of us can remember, conversations with our mothers about how we have to behave when we go out into public. Or, how we have to, be home before the street lights come on, and all of those different types of things. And even though our parents aren't able to sum it up at that moment, they're protecting us from, the contradictions that have been forced upon us by colonialism. And we just have to understand that a colonized mother, an African mother, all of those things are something that they have to think about, when preparing to bring a child into this world. And you can believe without a doubt that a white parent doesn't have to have the same conversation with their children before they go out into public. Because as we see when we go out into different stores and, to different restaurants and all of these different places, a white child can run amok and do whatever the fuck they want to do, versus a African child, or, a child of a colonized person, who's basically snatching that child up, letting them know, you need to behave. So it was just, really powerful to see, what Comrade Assata's thoughts was, as she was preparing, to bring life into this world. So that was my hashtag read that back part for chapter 7. So I'm going to scroll up through the comments and see if any of you have any hashtag read that back parts of chapter 7. So I don't see any yet. So while we're waiting for you to put your hashtag read that back parts in the comments, I just also want to say again that you can support the Revolutionary Book Club. You can support Black Hammer as an organization today by making a donation by going to CashApp. You can type in BHBookclub. Donate as much as you can, $3, $2, $5, whatever you got. We understand that, as colonized people, we out here trying to survive. We got to eat, we got to feed our babies or whatever. So just whatever you're able to give. And even if you aren't able to donate, please share the links amongst your friends, amongst your families. And tell them to donate as well. You can also donate by going to GoFundMe.com/Black Hammer Organization. And I know I put out there earlier, but I'm gonna keep pushing it. It's not today, but it's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Y'all make sure y'all check out Propaganda that's hosted by Comrade Robert, who is going to be reviewing the newest season of Stranger Things. I watched it, and you can understand that you would just be able to see how, the media, even a show is, such as Stranger Things is being used as a tool by imperialism, especially when you understand how, the Russians were blamed for basically, saying that they rigged the election or whatever and made President Trump become elected. And so now I ain't gonna even give it away, but Comrade Robert, I know you're gonna sum it up and let the people have it. So I'm gonna just leave it right there. Black Power, Comrade Tejan says, message those links to me. Comrade Robert or Gigi, if you're watching, if you can send those over to Comrade Tejan, please. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but please get those links over to him. All right, so I don't see any hashtag read that back part. So y'all, come on now. Is y'all reading with me? Oh, what's up? So if we don't have any hashtag read that back parts from you comrades, I'm gonna go ahead and move on over to chapter 8. So with chapter 8, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say about chapter 7 before I move on. Also just the fact that that's a good one, Comrade Naya. I'm gonna read that. But I also just wanted to let you guys know that at this part, Assata is dealing with this white nationalist prison doctor that they have that is just basically doing all of this backwards, just fucked up shit to her. Not really providing her with adequate care. Anyway, so Auntie Evelyn was able to bring in a private gynecologist for Comrade Assata by the name of Dr. Garrett, and he was an African doctor. And Comrade Assata just speaks about how he was very gentle with her, and she could get the sense that this doctor was for the people. And he even laid it out to Comrade Assata, that no matter what happens, I'm going to make sure that you get the care that you need, that you're provided, because you can understand that the judge, even at this point, was infuriated that Comrade Assata was pregnant, and at this point, he was just trying to push her into the trial and make it happen, and Dr. Garrett was like, no. So Comrade Naya says her hashtag read that back part for chapter 7 was the poem that Comrade Assata composed at the end of chapter 7 entitled Love. So I'm going to read that. I thought the poem was really dope as well too. So she says, love is contraband in hell, 'cause love is an acid that eats away bars. But you, me, and tomorrow hold hands and make vows that struggle will multiply. The hacksaw has 2 blades. The shotgun has 2 barrels. We are pregnant with freedom. We are a conspiracy. Slick. So if we don't have any more hashtag read that back portions for chapter 7, I'm gonna go ahead and go into chapter 8. So in chapter 8, basically Comrade Assata, is just speaking about how she is living with Aunt Ev. And I don't know about y'all, but it just makes me wonder, how old Aunt Ev is at this point. Because, for her to basically raise Comrade Assata, and so now she's defending her at this point. It's like, dang, Aunt Ev, how old are you really? I'm going to look that up and see if I can have that answer for y'all for next week's Sunday, for next week's show. But, so she speaks about, living with Aunt Ev in Manhattan, and she basically goes into, laying out how she was able to begin to see, at this young age, basically how society, is working. She was living on, I think she says 80th Street, which her and Aunt Ev had this, what did she say? Like this box of an apartment. It was just one room where they lived, they eat, they slept. And, she was just speaking about, even at a young age that she was basically a slob, and that, the apartment being so small, if even just one mess was like a hurricane just ran through the damn apartment. So, she was just speaking about, the living situation with Aunt Ev. And also, like I said, they were living on 80th Street, which she speaks about basically was composed of, other colonized peoples, African peoples, basically who were living in poverty, and, just the different, situations that African peoples on this street will find themselves in. And, we speak about slumlords now, and, just to hear her sum up, the conditions that African people were living in, you know, in her time, you know, when she was living in Manhattan with Aunt Ev, you see that nothing has changed. And if you read the Black Camera newsletter that was sent out for this month of July, we have an article that was written by Comrade Jordan. Shout out to Comrade Jordan, you know, who was basically summing up this action that is taking place and where he lives about this apartment complex where African people were living through different conditions that, you know, Comrade Assata is summing up in this chapter as well. You know, no working water, rat infested, bugs, roaches, and different things like that. So, I mean, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So, she speaks about 79th Street, which was home to the upper middle class, where you had doctors, you know, lawyers, and, you know, just how she would go down the street and how she would get these different looks from all of the different white people, you know, like, what is she doing here? And I think she even says that at one point she was walking around, you know, walking through one of these neighborhoods, and somebody came up to her and asked her if she was someone's mistress. You know, so she just lays out basically, you know, how we see today, like, for example, gentrification, where you have one side of the street, all of this wealth and, you know, prosperity that is being enjoyed by, you know, the white masses. And then you have on the other side of the street, African people who are living in extreme poverty. And, you know, as I said, we have all been witness to this. And being, you know, someone who had once lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, where me and Gazi came from before we came here to back to Atlanta, you know, we saw that. Like, I could literally, y'all, I promise you, I put this on the ancestors. Where I was staying, I could literally open the back door and you saw all these new houses, you know, like new paved sidewalks. And then I would turn around and could walk to the front door and open the front door, and you just saw all of this poverty. You know, within the African community, you had African brothers and sisters. You could see them sleeping on the benches, you know, run down, raggedy corner stores ran by these petty merchants, and just all of this poverty. And then again, you could turn around and go to the back door and you saw all of this newness, all of this prosperity that was being experienced by, you know, white people within the community. And, you know, Comrade Assata, you know, breaks this down in chapter 8. And I just wanted to read this portion, you know, where she speaks about, you know, just the different dynamics of how these, you know, these neighborhoods were composed. And she says, 79th Street was directly behind us, but there was a world of difference between the two. It was an upper middle class street. Doctors and lawyers and a lot of performers lived there. Every day after school, I would hear an opera singer practicing. Maybe that's why I developed a profound dislike for opera. No shade. The people on 79th Street wouldn't dream of socializing with the people on 80th Street where she lived. They recognized our existence with a mixture of amusement, fear, and dislike. 81st Street between Central Park West and Columbia's Avenue was even richer. The lobbies were elegant and the doormen were splendidly attired. They were, for the most part, all white and not even slightly aware of the people who lived only a block away. Farther down toward the river near West End Avenue or Riverside Drive, there was a middle-class neighborhood. The buildings were usually old, grandiose, and well-kept. The people who lived there were mostly white, of course, with a few blacks and mixed couples thrown in. The Upper West Side, as the neighborhood was called, was supposed to be a liberal stronghold. I have never really understood exactly what a liberal is, though, since I have heard liberals express every conceivable opinion on every conceivable subject. As far as I can tell, you have the extreme right, who are fascist, racist, capitalist dogs like Ronald Reagan, who come right out and let you know where they're coming from. And on the opposite end, you have the left, who are supposed to be committed to justice, equality, and human rights. And somewhere in between those 2 points is the liberal. As far as I'm concerned, liberal is the most meaningless word in the dictionary. History has shown me that as long as some white middle class people can live high on the hog, take vacations to Europe, send their children to private schools, and reap the benefits of their white skin privileges, then they are liberals. But when things get hard and money gets tight, they pull off that liberal mask and you think you're talking to Adolf Hitler. They feel sorry for the so-called underprivileged just as long as they can maintain their own privileges. That whole motherfucking portion that she just read, Comrade Assata went in. Like, hold on, wait. Comrade Robert says, you took Gigi's read that back. Yes, but I mean, that whole portion right here was just so powerful. And to me, what was so powerful about it is that it made me even think about liberals in a different way, because at this day and time, you do think that liberals and the white left, they're all the same. Like, they're all part of the same, different sector of the white ruling class. But you know how Comrade Assata lays it out, that you have the extreme right, then you have the extreme left, and then in the middle of that, you have this you have this sector of the white ruling class who we see every day, who send their children to private school, as Comrade Assata says, and has access to societal wealth that is shared amongst white people, who have who basically are living off the benefits, off the exploitation of colonized African people. And just as she says in this portion that they all could and calm, wearing safety pins and all this other type of bullshit to let you know that, hey, I'm an ally, you can feel safe around me, and all this other different kind of stuff like that. But when we're out in the streets organizing and protesting and blocking the highway and all this other kind of stuff like that, doing stuff to demonstrate our anger, our frustration, then that mask comes off, and then you a nigga and all of this other different type of foolishness. And we see that in today, and it's just so crazy that when you think about it, nothing about white power changes. Like, they use the same type of structure. They've used the same structure for the past 500 or plus years. And that is just indicative to let you know that, all of these situations, all of these institutions that they have, put in place under colonialism, under white imperialism, under capitalism, it can't hold. That is not fixed. It's not something that, is permanent. So, yeah, just to have her break that down, that was very powerful. Very, very powerful to me. Also, she speaks about in this chapter, this friendship. Oh, thank you, Comrade Robert. Don't give me a big head now. But she speaks about this relationship, this best friend that she has in this chapter by the name of Bonnie, who they write poetry. And I believe this is, where she speaks about how she got into writing poetry. And, as we can see, Black Power, thank you, Comrade Robert. Y'all stop it. Cut it out. Yeah, she speaks about how she's introduced to poetry and all of these different things like that. So, another portion of this chapter that was, extremely powerful for me as well. And this is actually my hashtag, read that back, part for, no, before I get to that, I want to speak about, okay, here it is. About her friend Little Bit, and Little Bit lives on 84th Street. So you have Comrade Assata, who's on, what did she say? She's living on 80th Street with Aunt Viv. And, as we saw in the, oh, thank you so much, Christopher. Aunt Ev, born in 1922. Somebody do the math and put Aunt Ev's age in the comments right there. But she speaks about Little Bit, who lives on 84th Street. And Comrade Assata, basically summarizes that 84th Street is where the stone cold, working hard, poor African, people. This is the street that we live on. That, where you have the drug dealers, the sex workers, everybody, how she puts it in the book, how you have just life and survival hung out on a, what did she say? Hung out on a, what do you call the thingy? On a laundry line just for everybody to see. And how she's 97? What? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Shout out to Aunt Ev, but you know how she speaks about how survival is just out on display for everybody to see, and we understand that. African working class people, we understand what it is to try to survive, day to day. So she speaks about Little Bit, who basically lives in this apartment with her mom, and she just speaks about how for her it was just such a struggle for her to go and even visit Little Bit, because she spoke about how the apartment was covered in roaches. It was just small, and how her mom was injured. At first she was someone who worked in like I think she said a dry cleaner's place, but she injured her hand. So at this point she's out of work and just basically collecting, welfare checks and stuff like that. And yeah, she says that that was her first introduction to hopelessness. Seeing the conditions that, Comrade Little Bit and her family was living in. And, just to think that, even us in 2019, how many people do we know who live in the same conditions that Comrade Little Bit, is subjected to here in chapter 8. So, I mean, that's just something to, really think about and internalize, because, Comrade Assata, just, indicative of her age, grew up in the time of, segregation, like the 1950s, 60s, and, in that era. And you just think that in 2019, is it possible for African people and colonized people to still be living under these conditions? And the answer is yes. Because we're still colonized. We're still under the boot of white power. We're still under, living under imperialism. So, yeah. So my hashtag read that back part for chapter 8 is when she speaks about going back down south, with visiting her grandparents, and she is introduced to the NAACP. So hashtag read that back. Please put your hashtag read that back parts in the comments, because after I read mine, we're going to go into discussion, so we can read yours. So hashtag read that back. And before I go into that, leading up to this portion of the chapter, Comrade Assata just speaks about how she at this point was ready for segregation to end, because just, she says how she grew up on the dark side of segregation. And let me stop talking. I'm going to just go ahead and read. Hashtag read that back. So she says, one of the last summers that I went down south, the NAACP rented a building a few doors from my grandparents' restaurant, which was a great source of interest to me. I was forever walking by, standing in the doorway, or sliding discreetly into the building to see what was going on. I could hear them talking about integrating the South by sitting in, praying in, singing in, and about nonviolence. I was glad, because I surely wanted segregation to end. I had grown up exposed to the degrading, dehumanizing side of segregation. I remember that when we traveled from north to south and vice versa, we really felt the sting of segregation more acutely than other times. We'd drive hours without being able to stop anywhere. Sometimes we would pull into a filthy old gas station, buy gas, and then be told that we were not permitted to use their filthy old bathroom because we were black. I can remember clearly squatting in the bushes with mosquitoes biting my bare buttocks, and my grandmother handing me toilet paper because we could not find a place with a colored bathroom. Sometimes we were hungry, but there was no place to eat. Other times we were sleeping and there was no hotel or motel that would admit us. If I sit and add up all of the colored toilets and drinking fountains in my life, and all of the back of the buses, or the Jim Crow railway cars, are the places I couldn't go, it adds up to one great ball of anger. And so when I saw these NAACP people, I was ready to do whatever it was that they were going to do. But they were very confusing. One day I was hanging around in the office and two men were talking about nonviolence and self-control. Then he walked around the room asking everyone questions. What would you do if they pushed you? Nothing. I'd just keep on doing what I came to do. What would you do if they kicked you? I'd pray to the Lord to forgive them for their sins. What would you do if they spit on you? I'd just go on singing. Well, that was just too much for me. I could take someone pushing me, hitting me, kicking me, but to sit there and let some cracker dog spit on me, well, just the idea of it made me want to fight. To me, if someone spit on you, it was worse than hitting you, especially if they spit in your face. I tried to tell myself that I would just sit there and take it, but every muscle in my body, every instinct I had rebelled against it. The man continued around the room asking everybody the same questions. When he came to me, I answered the same, too, except for the spitting question. I don't know, I told him. What do you mean you don't know? I just don't know. Well, little sister, we can see that you're just not ready. If you want your freedom, there's no sacrifice that's too big to make. Everybody looked at me as if I was some stupid idiot. I felt bad, but I still couldn't get used to the idea of letting somebody spit on me. The man said I wasn't ready, and I had to agree with him. So that was my hashtag read that back part of chapter 8. And we can smile and laugh about it now, but even then, it's a very serious matter. And we just have to understand it in the context that, this is something that was done down south through all the states. Even up north, when you had, if you had a chapter of the NAACP up north, they would have these training sessions where, at this point, Comrade Assata is, saying that they're asking questions, but at one point in time, you had it where members of the NAACP would actually sit around and be beat and just, be beat and have stuff thrown on them just so they, to train themselves to respond, when going to sit in, diners and, all of these different white nationalist places in the name of ending segregation. And to me, that is the most, the most cowardice thing, to ever let happen to you. And I'm not even saying that in the sense that, we should go out, looking to beat on white people or to fight white people. But at what point in time, do we say as a people, where's our dignity to have these people spit on us, to hit us and beat us and, do all these different, just horrendous things to us. And we have to understand that, I'm not, let's see, how can I put it? Because I'm by no means, am I not, exactly, Comrade Nye, self-defense, I'm not a nonviolent person. Never have been and never will be. And, I understand as a revolutionary that you have to conduct yourself in a certain way. But at the end of the day, when you're being attacked, as Comrade Nye says, you have to defend yourself without a doubt. And you have to even understand that, understanding what the NAACP is and how it was founded and how it was, how it was put together. And, the white people who had a direct interest, who had a portion of creating the NAACP, you have to understand that they had an interest, a direct interest in African people being nonviolent in these different demonstrations. They needed you to be nonviolent. They needed you to sit there and, basically take all of this shit from white people because they understood that if African people rebelled in a way that they needed to, the different resources that they had access to, they would no longer have access to those things. And that even stands for the petty bourgeoisie, the black people who were also, you know, the lackeys, the lapdogs, you know, of these white people pulling the strings in NAACP, the white liberals, the white Democratic Party. And just, you know, to understand that, and just to see that now you have the Cory Bookers, you have the Kamala Harrises, you have the Bernie Sanders, you have Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, you know, all of these puppets of white power that have been paraded in front of African people to make you feel some type of change has happened. You know, this is the NAACP, this is what that is an instrument of. To lull you back to sleep, to pacify you, so you will be able to sit down in some restaurant and have these white people do all of these, you know, vicious things to you. And that shit is... No, and like Comrade Robert just put in the comments, Rachel Dolezal, this white woman, was head of the NAACP. You know, and all of these, you know, all of these different contradictions is, you know, what we have to be conscious of, because if not, you know, just like how President Barack, I don't even know why I'm even giving him the fucking respect to say president, but Barack Obama, who put African people and colonized people back to sleep for a total of 8 years, like, this is what we're facing right now. Even, you know, as we watch these different debates, you know, from the Democratic Party and the Republicans and things of that nature. But, you know, these are the things that we have to understand and to put into context. But the NAACP has never worked in the true interest of African and colonized people. And, yeah, we got to always keep that in mind. So that was, I know I went on for a little long, but that was my hashtag read that back part for chapter 8. Let's see what you guys had to say. So we have Comrade Muendo. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, who says hashtag read that back, fuck the NAACP, period. Let's see. Conrad Naya says, let's see. Another hashtag read, listen, I'm going to stop y'all, is read that back. D-A-T. Not that. Fuck that shit. Read that back. D-A-T. She says, another read that back I have is on page 136, where she thinks about kids in the schools who acted out for fighting for their dignity and self-worth, how racism, colonialism manifests itself, and how we fight against it. Just like that little girl that cussed them. That, Conrad Naya, and even I can remember when I read that part of chapter 8, just thinking to myself, you know, seeing all of the different, little boys and girls, like my classmates, who would just be acting out for no reason. And then even at that point, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why don't they just behave? Why don't they just do what the teacher is telling them to do? And, you know, as Comrade Assata says in the book, you know, those are the unsung heroes. You know, even the little children who were rebelling against white power, like right then and there. And as Conrad Naya says, if you go to the Black Hammer Facebook page, there's this video of this young African child who is boldly telling the pigs, fuck you, fuck this station, you locked up my uncle for no reason. And that is what the type of behavior that our children need to be displaying. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Period. Let's see what else we got up here. I still can't believe that Aunt Ev is 97. That's crazy to me. Okay, so we don't... Okay, I don't think we have... right, Cameron. So, yeah. Now we're going to move on to chapter 8. Chapter 9, excuse me. If we don't have any more hashtag read that back parts for chapter 8. Just want to put out again, visit blackhammer.org, become a member of Black Hammer today, sign up. Memberships start as low as $5 a month. If you're white, you can donate on a monthly basis, through reparations. You can't join the organization, but you can support, give those reparations, donate on a monthly basis. But again, I'm making this call to my African people, to my colonized people who is viewing right now. Please visit blackhammer.org, become a member today. We have so many wonderful things going on right now for the organization, and we want you to be part of it. So you can also join us on every Tuesday. And Comrade Robert, our comrade Naya, if you could, please post the call-in number for the mass meetings that we have every Tuesday, so you can see where your donations are going to, the different campaigns that we are building. I forgot to announce it earlier, but on July 27th, shout out to Comrade Roberts and Gigi. They're going to be hosting a homeless food drive right there in Orlando. So that's taking place. So, you can call in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 678-433-9333. Find out what's going on with the organization, how you can get involved, even if we have comrades in the state that you're staying in right now, and how you can link up with those comrades. And so, Black Hammer is an open book. We don't hide nothing from anybody, and we want African people, we want colonized people to participate in the building of the revolution, the building of this revolutionary organization that is going to guarantee the freedom and the liberation of African and colonized people. So visit blackhammer.org. Now we're going to chapter 9, and this chapter was just it was kind of difficult, to get through, because now we find Comrade Assata, who is now, she's been informed by the doctor that she may be threatening to miscarriage the baby. And, it was just very, depressing for her. And I can understand how, because you have this revolutionary sister who has been in solitary confinement for months at a time, and this child, who she's found, so much hope and joy in. And as she said, she was so already deeply in love with, just the idea of not being able to bring the child to full term. It was very, depressing for her. And, it was advised to her, and shout out to Dr. Garrett, who fought for her to be hospitalized, because even he, expressed to her his concerns about, the complications that she was facing with having the child. So she was moved to Roosevelt Hospital in New Jersey. And she was shackled, y'all. They shackled Comrade Assata to the hospital bed. This sister who was getting ready to, give birth, they shackled her to her hospital bed. So even just after 10 days of being in the hospital, after she got the court order to, be put on bed rest, that Aunt Ev and the other attorneys fought for, after 10 days, they discharged her from the hospital. Only after 10 days. And they sent her, not only did they discharge her, they sent her back to Middlesex County Jail for Men, where she was put into solitary confinement from February to May of from February to May in the year 1997. 1974. Where I get 97 from? So while she's pregnant, she's in solitary confinement for January, February, March, April, May. For 4 months, Comrade Assata is in solitary confinement. So she speaks about that. She also speaks about being, moved back to Rikers Island in upon getting back to Rikers Island, she's discovered that she's now anemic, and she's also she's anemic and malnourished. And this is a pregnant woman, a pregnant African woman who's become anemic and malnourished during her pregnancy. And you even think, like, how can something like that even be possible? But under colonialism and white imperialism, it's possible, y'all. It's possible. So she speaks about that. She speaks about how they denied Dr. Garrett, who's been with her up until this point, you know, since she found out that she was pregnant. So now it's just so much, y'all. So at first she was being examined by the prison doctors, and then when she was able to have Dr. Garrett become her primary, you know, physician during this point in time, the court ordered her to have another exam. In order for her to have visits from Dr. Garrett, she'd also have to be examined by the doctors that they provided. And we have to understand that this was a tactic that the state was using against Comrade Assata. Because you have to think, like, what does that do to, you know, to an African person mentally? Like, how degrading, how dehumanizing that has to be, that you have to get examined by your doctor, and just so they can let you know, as a nigga, as an African, I still have power to you. You don't even have power over your own body. So we're gonna let this nigga doctor examine you, but we're gonna examine you too. And you have to think, what does that do to a person psychologically, when you don't have control over your own body? You don't even have control over your own body. So she speaks about that. And then even at this point, y'all, she's pregnant, and she gets infected with Manolia. And Manolia is a vaginal discharge, and she is left untreated. These doctors are debating for weeks on how they should treat Comrade Assata, and at this point the discharge has become so bad that she's chapped on the inside of her thighs, and that she can't even walk. She can't even walk. And as Comrade Assata is describing all of these different things that is happening to her at this point, it just made me think about how many other African sisters, how many other colonized sisters who get raped by these prison guards and become pregnant, and how they don't even, what struggles do they have to go through in order to have this child, you know, while locked away. And even the doctors, these white nationalist doctors, was telling Comrade Assata at this point that even she needed to have an abortion, you know. And so and that's not even to say, because listen, as a colonized person, as an African person, if I was to be raped, you know, in prison and become impregnated by a pig, and I'm sure many of you would have the same intimates, but I wouldn't even want to carry that baby. I wouldn't want to, but you know, just to think about what these colonized sisters, these African sisters who are being abused and molested by these prison guards, like, what kind of struggles are they going through today? You know, as they're faced with this same, you know, contradiction. So she speaks about that, and then she goes into how she is, she goes into labor, how she's getting ready to give birth. So at this point, she won't let any of the doctors examine her, rightly so. And at one point, she gives in, and after one of the doctors from the hospital examines her, after he examines her, she starts bleeding. And then at this point, she's telling them, you know, give me the stethoscope. I'm gonna deliver my baby my own self. I don't want y'all to deliver my baby. And that's such a right on stand. So she keeps this up. And she actually gets up out of the bed, you know, to fake, and she falls out, you know, because she knew that the hospital didn't want any lawsuits. So this is how she's able to get Dr. Garrett in to actually deliver her baby. So she gets up and she acts like she's falling out. And so they bring their, and even at this point, while all of this is going on, there's a demonstration outside of the hospital, you know, by other Africans who are saying that she has the right to her own private doctor, and, you know, just really putting the pressure on the hospital. And so with her fake falling out, and then also the demonstration that is going on outside of the hospital, you know, that this is what moves the hospital to say, okay, hey, we'll let Dr. Garrett come in and deliver the baby. So at 4 a.m., on September 11th, Comrade Assata gives birth to, and I'm gonna take my time pronouncing this. So they say her name is Kakuya Amala Alubala Shakur. Such a beautiful, 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 beautiful name. So she gives birth to this beautiful baby girl, and it's September 11th. So later on that day, she also speaks about how they hadn't even brought the baby to Dr. Garrett. They hadn't brought the baby to her, and it's not until 6 p.m. that day she gets to finally see the baby. And Dr. Garrett has to remind her that she has to breastfeed the baby. Just terrible, horrible. And so I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure all of you can go on and on and on about what, you know, is happening in this chapter. But, you know, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and go to my hashtag read that back part. And that is hold on one second. Because it's so many different things that I don't want to miss, but, you know, it's just like, so hashtag, my hashtag read that back part is on page 44, and it's when she's speaking about, you know, just the different, you know, things that she's facing right now at this moment as she's preparing to give birth. So she says, meanwhile, the lawyers obtained another court order from the New York court permitting Dr. Garrett to continue treating me. When he first came to Rikers, I was in the infirmary. They told him the court order was no good and that he couldn't see me. I was left in a room for 3 days with a woman who turned out later to have active tuberculosis. It was May and they had turned the heat off. It got cold again and women were having seizures, methadone withdrawal, and one sister who they said had pneumonia all piled blankets on their beds. The sister got worse and worse. Finally, they brought her to Elmhurst Hospital, where they discovered that she also had tuberculosis. I found out later when she was returned to Rikers, kept in isolation, and the doctors wore masks and gloves when visiting her. I also had menorrhagia, a vaginal discharge, which worsened because the I know I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Montefiore or whatever hospital doctors assigned to Rikers could not agree about how it should be treated. They refused to treat the condition at all until my culture was returned from Elmhurst Hospital. By the time they managed to get the culture back, the whole inside of my thigh was chapped raw from the discharge, and I could barely walk. Montefiore Hospital and the Health and Hospital Corporation went to court to prevent Dr. Garrett from delivering my baby. Their position was that since I was a prisoner, it was not necessary for me to have the doctor of my choice. They also said that he was disruptive because when he did manage to see me, he often wrote in my chart, which they found very disturbing. The court upheld him. I was only a prisoner. So, yeah, that was my hashtag read that back part, and that just goes back to what I was saying earlier about, all of the uncounted sisters, who are in prison right now, who have been raped and molested by these guards, who, inevitably end up pregnant, and we understand that Comrade Assata, and the relationship between Comrade Assata and Kimya was consensual. I mean, Kimya, oh my gosh. I'm sorry, Comrade Cam was consensual. And they understood that bringing this child into the world would be a force of hope for the revolution had it not be completed by then. But when you think of, these African and these colonized sisters who have no say in the matter, who have no control over their bodies, and to become pregnant by a guard or an officer within the court, what constitutes the proper care for this child? What is to say that this child, this African sister, or this colonized sister, has to be treated, by a doctor or anything else of that nature? Yeah, Comrade Assata, I don't know. You was just on my mind. I don't know, girl. I don't know. So we're gonna go to your hashtag read that back parts. So let's see what we have. We have Comrade Valencia who says, hold on. Who says hashtag read that back. They were trying their best to keep her baby from being born. They weren't giving her the adequate food and being denied access to the doctor of her choice. In the poem at the end of chapter 9, loved it. Right on, Comrade Valencia. Let's see, who else do we have? Okay, do we have any other hashtag read that back parts for chapter 9? Let's see. I know I went over my. I'm just trying to think if there's any other portions of chapter 9 that was just so, but when you get involved in political life, and you get this understanding of what colonialism is, of what of what white imperialism is, and just basically how we are indoctrinated with all of these different ideologies and understandings given to us by white power. You fall into the trap of thinking that some of the stuff that we may read about or that we may even see with our own two eyes is just like, how can anything like this be possible? Like, how could African and colonized people be subjected to this type of treatment, and it's then when you understand that in order for capitalism to prosper, in order for the white ruling class to, maintain access to, all of the resources, all of the different, all of the different things that they have access to, like, these are the conditions that African people and colonized people have to be subjected to in order for capitalism to prosper. And then you usher in, the different, these neo-colonial sellouts, these different, white people who claim to be allies and, white leftists in the Democratic Party, and all of these different institutions that white power has created to even reinforce, all of these different things that we can, that we believe about what it is to be an African in America. and that, you know, all white people aren't bad, all cops aren't bad, like, that somehow the educational system as it stands now is beneficial to African and colonized people. Like, even white imperialism has created the, you know, the reinforcements, you know, to make you think that you can live, that you can get along, you know, being a colonized and, you know, oppressed individual. And this is what, you know, this is what we have to become politically aware of. So that when we read an article about, you know, a trans sister who has been murdered and you found her in a ditch, when we read a story about, you know, an African child who has been brutalized in school, when we read a story about an African brother who has been shot, you know, 22 times in the street in broad daylight, that you understand that under colonialism, this is possible. And that we have to organize against this, that we have to, you know, come into revolutionary life, we have to come into political life to organize against this, and that there is no comfortable place, there is no type of, you know, relaxation or no type of positive energy that we can ever, you know, achieve to make us be okay with how we are treated as African and colonized people. So like when we read about, you know, Comrade Assata and what she's going through, you know, not even just during her pregnancy, but just as a captive of the state, that these things are very real. They're extremely real. And I like Comrade Deaton says, colonialism is unimaginably savage. It is. It is. And you have to think, like, what type of violence has to be exerted upon African and colonized people to where, you know, it would, you know, make an African or a colonized person think imperialism is just absolute. There's nothing that we can do about our current situations. There's nothing that we can change about our, you know, about our circumstances as African and colonized people. And you have to think, what has been done to that nation of people, to that person, to make them feel that way. And this, what we're reading about Comrade Assata going through, what we're reading about, you know, when we read about other revolutionaries, you know, when we read about other political prisoners and, you know, what they have been subjected to, that is what colonialism is. That is what imperialism is. And that is what we have to organize against and we have to overturn for us to be able to provide a future for our children and our children's children. And so we don't have to think about, you know, when we're preparing for a pregnancy is if, you know, is my child going to be shot down in the street? Is my child going to have an education that is beneficial to them? You know? So that's my time, comrades. Thank you so much for joining me this Sunday for the 3rd episode of the Revolutionary Book Club with Chief Dia. So for the next show, we're going to be reviewing chapters 10 through 12. So if you want to catch up, if you want to join in the conversation, again, it's not too late. Please feel free to hit us up on any of our social media pages, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We can provide you with the free PDF so that you can, you know, read along. And I need y'all to come, you know, when you come, please have a hashtag read that back part, you know, so we can have a discussion, you know, amongst each other, you know, as comrades. So we definitely want to, you know, make it so that everybody has a chance to, you know, voice, you know, how you feel about what we're reading right now with Comrade Assata. So return with me. Don't leave me here by myself. Again, that's going to be next Sunday at 11. And oh, also, I'm getting ready to forget. the giveaway, and the first question that I asked, let's see, let me find the chapter. Cause I know y'all want a free autobiography with my autograph, right? Y'all want one of those, right? I haven't seen anyone send any answers in to the first question, so I'll give that to y'all again. I'm just trying to find the chapter that I got it from. Give me just a second. Okay, so the first question came out of chapter. What chapter is this? Long chapter. Okay, it came out of chapter 3. So the first question was, what are the dates in 1979 when seven representatives of the United Nations Commissions on Human Rights who visited prisons at this point in time, because the lawyers, attorney Lennox Himes, sent he sent over a petition to the United Nations, speaking about the solitary confinement that they were putting Comrade Assata through at this point in time. So they sent over 7 representatives over to the state, and I just want to know what was the dates that these 7 representatives came over, and you can find the answer in chapter 3. So email all of your answers to blackhammerorg@gmail.com. So the second question that I'm going to answer today, remember I told you I was going to ask 3, 2 from the book, and just 1 random question. So I'm going to give you the 1 random question today. So the second question is, when Black Hammer had its official launch in February, what is the name of the venue that we had the launch party at? So that's the second question, okay? So you got the first question, what was the dates in 1979 when the UN sent over its representatives to assess the prison conditions, or whatever the fuck you want to call that bullshit. They knew what the fuck was up, period. So what was the dates for that? And the second question is, what's the name of the venue that Black Hammer had, is where we had our official launch party, okay? And again, email your answers over to blackhammerorg@gmail.com, and your prize will be an autographed Assata, an autobiography. It's going to be autographed by me. So, and I'll probably, put a little kiss on it, spray some of my cologne, so when you're reading it, you would think about me, okay? But also, don't forget, tune in on Wednesday for Comrade Robert's propaganda at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, Gigi, I'm gonna win. Also, you can donate for the next Black Hammer food drive, which is taking place July 27th in Orlando, Florida. And you can donate through CashApp at Black Hammer Food Drive. So make sure you support that. Comrade Robert and Comrade Gigi is going to be leading that. I think, again, with our first food drive, we fed up to 100 people. And I think that's what we're trying to do with the second food drive as well, too. So send over your donations so they can purchase the food, so we can feed our brothers and sisters and let them know that, it's hope, that it's somebody fighting for them, and that we're going to overturn colonialism, that we're going to overturn imperialism, and we're going to bring this shit down, and African and colonized people are going to be free in our lifetime, okay? So I'm out, and I will see y'all next week, Wednesday. Next week, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please turn on your notifications so you guys will know when we're going live. Not just me, but when anybody is going live from Black Hammer, because you need to be exposed to all of that. You need to be tuning in to all of that, okay? Visit blackhammer.org today. Become a member, $5 a month, as low as $5 a month. If you're white, you can't join the organization, but you can show your support through reparations by donating on a monthly basis, so you can do that too. Boo. All right. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys later. Black Power.